I equate what I do now to coaching because I say, like, we have 50 minutes together.
Right.
50 minutes is not enough for you to go out and have the game of your life, right? So I'm going to teach you things. We're going to come up with strategies and coping mechanisms, but it's your job to go and practice the reps so that when you get to the game and you need to call on this skill to calm your nerves or get back focused or whatever it is for you, you won't be able to do that if you don't practice this thing. I'm a big girl. I got to pay these bills. I got to keep all of this up. I got to do this and do that. But I still have to train because if I don't train, how do I perform? And that stretch from turning pro to the 2012 Olympic trials, that was the loudest the demons ever were. So I just remember the line going silent. And then he finally said, "My gosh, Natasha, you've lost the race before the gun has even gone off." And so he just started telling me, how do you expect to perform if everything out of your mouth is negative? You're doing all of this work. You're telling me that you're in the gym every day. Your mom and your coaches can speak to how hard you work. But then this is the mindset that you have going into your meets.
Going to Zesto of West Columbia with my good friends, parents, and grandparents, and to this day, it is the best fried chicken and soft serve I have ever had. Come down and support one of the most classic and most hospitable family-owned restaurants in Columbia. Zesto of West Columbia, serving hamburgers, chicken, and soft serve since 1949. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of The Coop, the show that celebrates the past and present, sung and unsung legends of USC athletics. I'm your host, Olivia Thompson, and today I'm joined by another very special guest, a 2-time Olympian, 13-time World Championship gold medalist, a mother, an advocate, and an inspiration to many, the 400-meter diva herself, Natasha Hastings.
Wow. Thank you for having me. That was an intro.
You deserve it. You deserve it. Thank you so much for being on today. I really appreciate you coming in before a work day. This means a lot to me.
This was an honor. Thank you for the invitation. I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah, I was really excited to hear back from you. Sometimes I DM a lot of people trying to get them on the show, and it's kind of just a shot in the dark. I'm like, if they respond, that'd be awesome. But if they don't, it's okay. So when I heard back from you, that was
Girl,
really awesome.
I saw your DM and I was like, I've been watching. Yes, I'll come.
That's awesome. That means a lot to me. That means a lot to me. So how have you been enjoying life working at the university that you went to?
I really, really love being back at USC, more than I actually imagined. I got right back into it. I mean, I started my master's program before I had even retired. Right. So it's a transition, but I didn't have a break and it was just like head first. But I'm back in the thick of things around my people, if you will, and the double sense, if you will, being back in my alma mater, but then also just being surrounded by athletes and competitive beings. I couldn't ask for a better, I didn't imagine this post-career, but I just absolutely love it. Right.
Well, it must feel like such a full circle moment for you because you really learned a lot about yourself when you were at South Carolina. And that's when you kind of got your inspiration to go down this path. And now you're back executing that mission of yours at your alma mater. That's really cool to me.
Yeah.
So what's it been like working one-on-one or just as a group with these student athletes that you were in the shoes of at one point?
It's exactly that. I can't tell you how many times I sit across from the students and I'm like, man, I remember this. I remember going through that. I know exactly what that feels like. Or even if I don't know what that feels like, they're broadening I'm learning from them, if you will. So a position that I don't think I imagined being in. I didn't imagine enjoying it as much as I do. And it's interesting because, let's face it, most times if you're coming to see me, there's probably something going on. Right. So it's not all, fun stuff that we're talking about, but it's really exciting to meet someone and they're going through something. And then when we get to the end of our path together, they've overcome things and grown in areas that they didn't expect to grow, or we both didn't imagine like this is where things are going to go. Or, you know, I've had students that have graduated and I'm just like, man, I get to be a part of your journey. It's really cool. It's really rewarding to kind of now give back. And a lot of why I am where I am is because it was something that I needed. And so I'm always thinking about like, what did I wish that I had when I was coming up? And in some areas I had this, but in other areas, you know, I'm kind of filling in the gaps for what I felt was missing most.
Right. Absolutely. And have you seen a growth in athletes' willingness to be vulnerable in a mental health space? Like, have you seen a pretty dramatic, like,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. When I was a pro athlete, I used to say, and I still say, you look at your favorite athletes and you think they're superheroes. But the truth is behind all of that cool stuff that you see us doing, we're still human beings. And it's really hard when you have that facade, personality, because you are tough. You have to be tough to do the things that you go out and do every day, right? But then you go home, and where do you get a place to kind of like shed that armor, shed that personality, that, you know, that athlete, if you will. So it's again, one of the first things that I actually say to the students when they come in is like, when you walk through that door, you're no longer whatever athlete you are out there, you know, because I know what it's like. Everyone has this expectation, but you get to come in here and just be who you are. You are more than whatever play, race, whatever, you know, you can do out there on the field. You're far more than that.
Absolutely. And I mean, like you said, it's incredibly important for athletes to humanize themselves. I feel like we, as athletes, expect fans and viewers and outside people to respect us as human beings, but we have to hold ourselves to that same standard. You know, like we kind of expect perfection and we hold ourselves to these extremely high standards, but in the same breath, we expect people to do the same for us, but we're not doing that for ourselves all the time.
So true.
So it's really important to have that representation from former athletes, especially former Black athletes in this space, because you don't see that representation a lot. But people like you and Raylene, it's really nice to see people like you in this space.
Yeah, I received that because that is literally, you know, there are little things throughout my years that I reflect on and I'm like, this, I didn't know the seed was being planted, but this is where I was supposed to land. But what did it for me was, you know, I worked with a sports psychologist throughout my career. I worked with the psychiatrist that is here at USC.
Dr. Malone?
I worked with him when I was here. But I reflected on my career and I was like, I never worked with a woman, let alone a Black woman. And I, right before the 2020, like right before the world shut down, actually, I was going through a breakup and my mom told me you need to get back in therapy. And I was living in Austin, Texas at the time. And I just Google searched like Black female therapists. And there were like, I kid you not, less than 5 therapists available in the area.
Wow.
And then one day I was just sitting in session. It was in session that I decided like, oh, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And I went home and I started researching programs and enrolled probably a couple weeks later. But yeah, it's my own experience of recognizing like, hey, where are we? Like, you know, it's planted such a seed in me. It's been helpful for me, but also having someone that has the lived experience that can kind of match or relate to what it is that I'm going through, where I want to go, what I want to do, I just felt made so much of a difference. And when I talk to kids, especially girls, I'm always saying we need more young women to tell our stories, to be in the decision-making seats, you know, in order for us as women in sports to progress. So that was also a moment for me of like, girl, you got to take your own medicine here.
Yeah, absolutely.
And fill those shoes. So it really was like kind of like little seeds throughout the years. But then I just had that moment in session where I was like, oh, this is where I'm supposed to be. That's
awesome. And then after that, you went back to South Carolina and got your master's, right? And then it's just blossomed from there.
Just all from there. I originally enrolled in a program that was online, and then somehow Coach Fry heard that I was in school, and he was like, if you want to come back, I was like, well, here I am.
Right.
I never imagined that I would be back, but
right.
Packed up and here we are.
That's awesome. Yeah. That's awesome. Now, is South Carolina somewhere that you want to settle, or is this kind of like just a stopping place to grow and kind of see where you go in this space, and then you'll blossom from here?
You know, life has a funny way of, because I lived in Austin, Texas for 10 years, never imagined that I would be there. When I came back, I thought that I'm going to get my master's and move on, but this is home.
Yeah.
I don't see myself leaving anytime soon. I have a 5-year-old boy. And if I'm honest, and since we're basically on the topic, right when I graduated, we learned that my son was autistic. Mm-hmm. And so it was kind of one of those things where it's like, okay, now we've got to figure out services and, you know, all the things. I was like, how dare I pick up and move in the middle of him needing this normalcy and figuring out all of the things that he needs. So again, another one of those situations where it's like, girl, this is home.
Yeah.
This is where you're going to figure it out. You have roots here, and now it's just time to spread them out.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Is there a part of you that's considered going back and becoming a coach, or have you found your path and you're just ready to take it?
I was always very clear. Mm-hmm. I don't want to coach, but I do feel like I'm coaching in a way, because, you know, when we think about coaching, we always think about like, you know, you go out there. For me, it's having a stopwatch at practice, right? For you, like, you know, thinking about Dawn and the rest of your coaches out there with you every day. And we always equate it to going out there and putting in reps, right? Like suicides. For me, it was like the repeat hundreds, the repeat 400s, like stuff that I don't even want to think about doing anymore. But I equate what I do now to coaching, because I say, like, you know, we have 50 minutes together.
Right.
You know, 50 minutes is not enough for you to go out and have the game of your life, right? So I'm going to teach you things. We're going to come up with strategies and coping mechanisms, but it's your job to go and practice the reps so that when you get to the game and you need to call on this skill to calm your nerves or get back focused or whatever it is for you, you won't be able to do that if you don't practice this thing. So I'm not coaching, right. You know, track, but I am coaching you to use your mind, and it's the least trained thing, but it's such a big part of our game.
Oh, it's everything. Yeah. It really is everything for athletes and everyone, especially young people coming into the world. I mean, we're
in the world of social media.
Yes, absolutely. So it's definitely a topic and a place that needs more attention. So it's really makes me feel good that there's people like you out there who are really taking advantage and helping in this space.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. Now I want to take it all the way back to where you started. In Brooklyn, New York. How did you get your introduction to track?
So both of my parents ran track. Both of my parents are immigrants to the United States. They came to the States on track and field scholarships.
That's awesome.
So I have to say that I was born into it.
Yeah.
But the introduction, I would say, was, again, like seeing pictures of my parents around the house. My dad was a coach at their alma mater, so I used to go to practice with him. And then, and I'll never forget, I was like 5 or 6, and I used to try and race the guys. They're in college. They used to let me win, and I'm thinking I'm doing something. But but when I was 9, my mom took me to a track meet that's still going in New York called the Colgate Women's Games. And actually, before I was 9, she took me a couple of years before that. But when I was 9, I actually met my coach, who I would join his team. And then he basically coached me from then till I came to USC.
That's awesome.
So I was born into it. And then I had like my official introduction when I was 9.
That's really cool. Now, I don't really know a whole lot about track and specifically coaching in track, because it just seems vastly different than a team sport like I'm used to. Yeah. So what does that look like when you start getting coached by someone at 9? Is there just like a lot of fundamentals involved at that point? And then how does it like progress and grow into like your specific event that you do? It
was absolutely fundamental because I don't know. I wish there was video of me. I just remember that I was a hot mess. So I don't know to this day how my coach looked at me. And fun fact, I didn't tell this part of the story. My coach ran track in Trinidad at the same time as my mom.
Oh, wow.
My mom was really good. She still has some records that, some youth records that are still standing in London. And she made the '84 Olympic team for Trinidad.
Yes.
Before knowing that my mom was my mom, he saw me and said, "Oh, that girl reminds me of Joanne Gardner."
That is something
How?
else.
I don't know,
Right.
because I was a hot mess. Like, I was flat-footed. I had absolutely no form. I definitely did not win the race. Nothing like that. And I just remember he took me for like 2 or 3 weeks and just taught me drills to clean up my form. And went to a track meet and I won my first track meet I ran the 55 and the 200. So it was absolutely very much fundamentals. One thing that I credit to both him and my mom, and I say this in terms of like, I started officially at the age of 9. I retired at 36.
Wow.
That is unheard of for a lot of people. And a lot of it was they stuck to the fundamentals and they allowed me to be a kid.
That's so important. Oh my gosh.
I remember there was a time that I don't want to get into the details of the story, but I got to practice and I had 10 400s. I was 10.
Whew.
It was
You were 10?
I was 10 years old.
Oh my gosh.
It was so bad. I think I ran like 2 or 3 of them. By the third one, I peed myself.
Oh, I believe it. Every time I talk to track people or I see interviews and they're like, "What's your intention for this workout?" They're like,
Just
to live, to get through, literally like to survive.
So my mom used to get to practice a little bit late because she was coming from work, and she got to practice and she was like, "What's your workout?" She was like, "No. Get your things, we're out."
Yeah, she was laying down the law. We're not doing that.
You're not gonna burn my daughter out. And so she was very clear on like, you're 10, so you're not gonna train like you're a 25-year-old.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you need to have fun. And I really credit those things from my mom and my coach, which we ended up leaving that team and my coach ended up leaving with us eventually. But that's what I attribute to my longevity, was that, they let me be a kid when I was a kid. Yes, it was an individual sport and they did the best that they could to like push me to be confident and go out there and fight for myself. And obviously I went through my struggles, but there is the difficulty of like, I'm out here by myself. And if I don't make it happen, nobody else can make it happen for me.
When you joined South Carolina, I read an article that said you had psychological demons to slay. How did that grow while you were in college? And that junior season, were you in a good mental place? Were you like speaking positively to yourself? Were you kind of overcoming those demons that you came to college with?
Yeah. Yes. I remember coming to, and we I'm no different from anyone. We come out of high school, and in high school we're the standouts, and everyone has these like, you're going to go on to do this and that, and, all these great predictions that are expectations and pressures. And I knew coming into the University of South Carolina, there was a time that I think I was at lunch in high school and I was looking at our roster and I was like, y'all, I'm going to a school that I'm not even going to be on the A relay team. I'm going somewhere that like my whole life I have been the anchor leg, right? Like I have been the one that like, if we need to get out of a pinch, put Natasha there, right? And I was like, oh, like Tiffany Ross just had a baby and I can't keep up with her at practice. Like it was all of these things that, and then the injury started happening. And so it's like, okay, am I supposed to be doing this? Am I at the right place? Did I make the right choice? So all of those things were kind of running through my mind. Am I good enough? And then again, like coming into my junior year, I was just kind of like, all right, here we go. It's either now or nothing. But then another point in my career that I feel like was really, truly where the demons were like loud was when I turned pro. Because I'm talking about going from high school to pro. No one equips you for, they say there's no handbook on parenting. No one equips you for going from being a collegiate athlete to a pro athlete.
Yeah, that's something I wanted to ask you about, like that, and then immediately going to the Olympics. So
no one prepares you for it.
Right,
and you want to do it. You don't. I talk about having the audacity to believe. Like, I just knew I was going to do these things and there was no other choice. But I was not prepared for it. I was not prepared for being the CEO of my business and my business was being the athlete. And I went pro early. And that's not to say like I had great people around me. I had Michael Johnson was my first agent, and he was my advisor. And like, I would talk to him about his experiences and get advice from him. My mom was incredibly supportive. So I had an amazing support system, but I went from being in college where everything's done for you.
Exactly.
Right. Your massage, you just have to sign up for a time. The training room is there. Like, hey, can I come in and get treatment?
Everything.
Meals.
Yeah.
Everything is done for you to now, oh, I got to pay for you to do my massages. Like, I get one every week, but adding this up monthly, this is a huge expense.
And this is before NIL. I mean,
girl,
right.
I got to pay my coaches. I got to pay my agent, like all these things that I have to manage and perform. And I got to the 2012 trials, Olympic trials. So yes, I did go to the 2008 Olympics, but still like, do I belong here?
Right, because you were the youngest on your team, weren't you? And I mean, fresh out of college.
You might be telling me something, maybe.
I did my research. I Googled every single person on your team, and I'm looking at y'all's birth dates. I'm like,
yeah, I probably was. Yeah. I know in the relay pool for sure. I probably was because I was 22.
Right. I mean, Allison Felix was on her second
Olympic team. She made her first one when she was like 18. Yeah, 18 or 19.
Ridiculous.
But insane. But I got to the 2012 trials and I did not make it. And I had a conversation with my mom because from 2008 to 2012, even though I was struggling, I was still good enough to like, still be in track meets, still be in the top 15 in the world. But that wasn't my fullest potential. And my mom said to me, I see you out there on the track and you don't look like you believe that you belong out there. And I was like, yeah, I'm good. I don't know what you're talking about. But it was really true. Like, I really spoke to myself in a very negative way. I have to say I was not enjoying it because it was all about like, well, now I have these expectations. Now I'm a big girl. I got to pay these bills. I got to keep all of this up. I got to do this and do that. But I still have to train because if I don't train, how do I perform? And that stretch from turning pro to the 2012 Olympic trials, like that was the loudest the demons ever were.
I'm sure.
I struggled.
I'm sure. But it seemed, although it was devastating that you missed the 2012 Olympics, it was almost like a blessing in disguise because that's when you got that wake up call that something has been off and there needs to be a change. And it kind of propelled you in the direction of the career that you're in now. And you were introduced to Dr. Alan Freeman. Can you tell me about the impact that he had on you during that time? Yeah.
So the story with Dr. Friedman is he came up to my mom at those Olympic trials and was like, hey, I've been watching. Of course, he doesn't talk like that. But basically, he had been watching me over the years and he could tell that like I was not tapping into my potential. And so when my mom said that to me about like seeing me and seeing that I don't believe in myself, that's when she actually gave me his phone number. And it took a couple weeks for me to use his phone number. And this is one of the things where I'm like, here are the little plantings of like, I didn't know where this was going to go, but like, this was it. Like, and I feel like I can't talk about the successes that I had without talking about that year.
Absolutely.
In 2012, because without that, yes, I had my back against the wall and it was like clear as day, like, girl, you have to do something. And I caution when I say this because now I realize this is not healthy, but I worked my tail off. I mean, a good workout wasn't a good workout if it didn't end in me vomiting.
Yeah.
Like I pushed myself physically to the limits. So there was no reason why I was not performing the way that I needed to perform. And I got with Dr. Friedman, and our first session, he asked me, so tell me, like, what are your thoughts before your race? What are you saying to yourself? And I was like, man, I'm like, this is about to be 50 seconds of pain. I can't wait for this to be over. This is going to hurt so bad. Why am I here? Nike's going to cut me. Oh, sorry. But they're gonna cut me. Just a bunch of just negative things. And back then we did not have Zoom. We did not have virtual practices. We were just on the phone. So I just remember the line going silent. And then he finally said, my gosh, Natasha, you've lost the race before the gun has even gone off. And I was like, okay. What does that mean?
Tell me more. Yeah.
And so he just started telling me, like, how do you expect to perform if everything out of your mouth is negative? You're doing all of this work. You're telling me that you're in the gym every day. Your mom and your coaches can speak to how hard you work. But then this is the mindset that you have going into your meets. And he and I worked together we started working together that October, I want to say. And we met on the phone weekly, and he literally helped me to identify the way that I was speaking to myself and change it into positive language. And he took me through that process. And I have to emphasize process because I feel like when I talk about it, it sounds very simple. Yeah. But I want to emphasize that from September through June was a process of me having to practice like, wait, don't say that about yourself. Don't say that to yourself. Like, you are prepared. You're getting there. You can do this. You belong here. And that was the shift in like going from not making the Olympic team the year before to becoming U.S. champ the very next year.
That's amazing.
That year, I ran the fastest that I had run since leaving college in 2007.
Wow.
But again, it wasn't that I wasn't working hard. I just wasn't training this.
Right. You had to rewire your thoughts and your the way you speak to yourself.
Exactly.
Was there another practice that really helped you? Because for a lot of athletes, visualization, sorry, that could be a hard word to get out sometimes, can be a really, really good practice for athletes, especially ones with negative mindsets, when you can actually just close your eyes and imagining what you want to happen to happen. Has there been a time where that has actualized for you?
There are two practices that I had, and still to this day, still have to have in practice for myself. It's affirmations and visualization. So as I'm going through this, changing my language, part of changing my language was creating the language to be available for me when I needed it, right? So if I'm in the heat of the moment and I'm starting to doubt myself and I know that this thought isn't helpful, but I'm stressed out, there's no way I can get to that positive language without already having it created. So affirmations was a big thing for me. And then visualization. Yeah. I would get to, and some of my friends and family teased me and called me woo-woo, but I was like, I don't give a crap, it's working. Right. I would get to the track early, and sometimes I would lay out, close my eyes, and visualize, especially if it was a hard workout, visualize the workout. When we got to track meets, I would walk the track. Every track is, I have this saying, a track is a track, but you still have to like visualize like, okay, this is where I need to be making my move. This is what my rhythm needs to be. And I got to a point in my visualization that I thought about everything down to how I wanted my foot to feel when I strike the ground.
Wow.
Where I wanted my hips to be, how I want to pump my arms, how the breathe, like the sound that I hear. Like I got really granular about the visualization of what it was that I wanted to go out and do. And, you know, you hear people say you got to see it to believe it. And like, you have to like conjure it in your mind. But those two things, it like, there were things that I was saying that I wanted to believe about myself that I wasn't quite there yet, but I wanted to get there. So I had to say it.
It's practice.
But then there were things that I also wanted to do that I had to see in my visualization to get there as well.
That's awesome. And I mean, when those two things are working hand in hand like that, and you're really like tuned in to that practice, you're set yourself up for success.
Absolutely. Yep.
And I mean, anyone can do that. It's not just athletes. Like, I feel like that's a practice everyone should really be doing, just as a way to build yourself up and to get what you want out of life. Because you can do it. I mean,
even now I tell myself, like, would you say that to a girlfriend? Okay, let's reframe that, Natasha.
Exactly.
So yeah, it's applicable in every walk of life.
Absolutely.
And that was the thing actually working with Dr. Friedman too, where yes, it was the change in my performance, but I also quickly realized how much it was actually showing up in my life outside of sport. So that was a whole nother evolution in itself as well.
Definitely. Now, I want to fast forward to the 2016 Olympics. You're in Rio, and I mean, this is you're going for your second gold medal, but I want to know what it's like to be walking out onto that track on the biggest stage of every track athlete's career in the big lights. I just want to know what it feels like to be in that moment.
I tell you, I hate that question.
I'm so sorry.
Because I still don't have the words for it.
Yeah.
And I compare the two because they're like two big moments. 2008 was my first. I was 22. I don't have very much memory of 2008.
That just does not shock me at all. I mean, because why do our memories fail us?
Why, right? But one thing that I learned, like about 2012, actually, I had to get a new passport. And I had to get a new passport because I ran out of pages.
Wow.
But I'm flipping through.
That's a nice problem to have.
It's a nice problem to have. But this is the part that was the problem. I'm flipping through and I'm like, I don't remember going to this place.
Wow.
I don't remember doing that. And so 2008 I was there at the Olympics. I was super focused. Like, it was just to compete. I can tell you that I remember my friend Karan Clement told me, when you go out into the stadium, do not look into the crowd. What did I do? Look out into the crowd. I also remember Usain Bolt breaking the 100-meter world record for the second time. Those are my memories. Couple of memories with my family because my family was there. They came to the village to visit me. So 2016, I was 30. I missed 2012. And I was more cognizant of like, okay, we have to be present. We have to cherish these moments. So I was more into like, you know, meeting other athletes from other teams. Some people don't believe this, but I'm quite an introvert and shy. So I was actually like asking Serena and asking Ibtihaj and different people for photos now instead of just having time with my family. I remember when I forget what we called them in 2016, but right after the gymnastics girls won their first gold medal, we ran into them in the village. Like I ran into them in the village. And I remember taking a picture with them and I didn't have any makeup on. And I look back at the picture and I'm like, oh my God, you look 12.
Hey, that's a good problem to have at
30. Right. But no, for me, it was more about taking in the moment. Having not made 2012 and then being there in 2016. And this time I was there for the Open 400 and the 4x4.
Oh, wow.
2008, I was only there for the relay. So to be there for my event as well, I was just like, this is a moment to take in. At the time, I wasn't thinking that I would go to try out for the 2021 games. And so, it ended up being my last experience. So I was glad that like I took it in the way that I did. But yeah, there's still no words for like getting out there and knowing all of those people are there and hearing the noise and this is the moment that you trained for.
Right.
I don't know how many hours and years and blood, sweat, and tears went into a 50-second moment.
Right.
Like I don't know how to put that into words.
No, you really can't. You really can't. So I understand that is a tough question to ask, but it's just such a moment. And even for viewers, like everyone is looking forward for the track and field. Like everyone's looking for those relay races.
Yeah.
So those moments are the biggest stage. So it's just incredible. And I'm sure it was incredible to be a part of. But at that same time, what does a gold medal mean to you bigger than track? Like on a scale bigger than track, what is that?
Ooh. Okay, girl, that's a hard one. That's a hard one because I didn't really get attached to my medals. And what I mean by that is up until recently, I did not have my medals.
Really?
Yeah. Because, you said something, I don't remember if you said this once we started or before we were talking, but you said something about perfectionism. And through the majority of my career, I did not take the time to sort of celebrate my moments, celebrate my medals. I would go on the podium, get the medal. My mom was there at every major championship. I would hand the medal off to her. And then the season wasn't over, so I would have to go off to the next track meet. So it's like, okay, this is done, job done, on to the next one. And so it's only recently that like, I think actually, watching the 2024 games with my son, and for whatever reason, I don't remember I had them out because I did a speaking engagement and they asked me to bring them. And I actually, like my son's into the Olympics and I'm like, do you know who your mom is?
Right.
And so I showed them to him and he put them on and we took a couple of pictures together. And I think, I don't know, something about sharing that moment with my son was like, like
kind of set in for you.
Yeah. Like, a lot of something that I do struggle with now is like remembering that I was a person before I was a mom. And my son is like, I remember I was dating a guy, but he was like, I feel sorry for your kids because what could ever compare to having a gold medal?
Oh my gosh.
Like, I was like,
that's a crazy thing to say.
That's a wild thing to say, right?
Wow.
And I just absolutely love being my son's mom. Like not just being a mom, but his mom.
Right.
But I don't know, something about in that moment where I was like, yeah, mom did some cool things too though.
Yeah.
Like,
So
I don't know. I don't know if that answers your question.
It definitely does. It really does. Perfectly. Really. Because I feel like that's not uncommon for athletes who hold themselves to high standards and also have extremely busy schedules. Like there's a lot of moving parts, a lot of things happening. You're doing a lot of different events, especially as a track athlete, and you're caught up in the what's next most of the time. Like I feel like athletes live in a constant state of, okay, what's next? For the most part, all of our schedules are extremely regimented and planned for us. So we're just sometimes we just turn our brain off and do what we need to do, which leaves us to kind of neglect the achievements that we have along the way. Yeah. Kind of leaves us to not really check in with ourselves to see how we're doing throughout this process. Yeah. So it makes sense that it was something that kind of took years to sink in for you once you're completely removed from that side of you.
As you say that, it makes me think of, we're talking about my medals, and recently my mom said to me, you always mention your relay medals, but you don't say that you placed fourth in the 400 final in Rio. And she was like, that's still an accomplishment. And I was like, you're so freaking right. This goes back to the perfectionism thing and all of the things. But if I could tell another quick story, the night of the final, I placed 4th. Only top 3 gets medals. So it's one of those things where I was like, I couldn't come in 6th or 7th. Like, why did I have to come in 4th?
Exactly.
And my mom, everyone was there to meet me out at the mixed zone. Everyone, they loved up on me as my family would, right? I remember I turned my phone off. My roommate, Michelle Carter, who also won the gold medal, the first gold medal for Team USA in the shot put. She was my roommate, and she was like, I'll meet you back at the village. And we had dinner together. We didn't say a word. We just sat together. She was just there as like, I know you need me. Didn't say a word. And the next morning, I opened my phone and I had like thousands of messages from people that were just like, we're so proud of you. We watched you the whole way and you're such an inspiration, and just all of these beautiful messages. And for me, I remember feeling like, oh my God, I went to bed feeling like I was such a failure. I didn't do what I came here to do. But look at all of these people that are inspired by what I've done. And it was a reminder of like, this is all bigger than you, right? So then when my mom now later on is like, you don't talk about that. And I'm like, you're right. Like in that moment, I knew and I celebrated that. But we get caught up in the perfectionism of, I didn't win a medal, but how many people do you know that have been to the Olympics, let alone been in the Olympic final, let alone been 4th in the Olympic final?
Right.
So I'm still learning.
Yes. Yeah. It's a constant practice.
To celebrate my victories. And, we wait for others to give us our flowers. We have to give ourselves our flowers.
Absolutely. So. Absolutely. But how fortunate to have such a steady force like your mom throughout your entire journey, who can kind of bring you back down to earth and be like, look,
all
like
the time.
That's so important. And I think the position you're in now, you can kind of give that back to those student athletes and be that voice that they need to hear to bring them back to who they are and make them realize that they're a part of something bigger than just themselves. Yeah. So that's amazing.
That is my mission. Yeah. There's no other way to put it. That is my mission.
Absolutely. So then when you retired in 2022, I read that wasn't really a tough decision for you, that you were ready.
Yeah. And as much as it wasn't a tough decision, I don't want to minimize how tough it has been.
Absolutely.
But I knew, like, from, again, my son, and like I was still competing when I moved back. So I'm in school full time. I'm a mom full time. I'm also a GA.
Got a lot on your plate.
So I was competing, and I remember one of the assistant coaches came over. I had a terrible race, and he's talking to me, and I was like, I don't need any sympathy. I know what is needed to do what I want to do. But I also know the type of mom that I want to be and the type of mom that I am. And I'm just not willing to do that anymore. And so it was clear as day to me that, like, it's not that I don't have, like, I probably could have still been competitive, but being a mom was just too important to me that, like, I wasn't willing to sacrifice that. I mean, and I look back on it now and I'm like, this is so silly. But like, there were days that I would be rushing to pick him up from daycare because he was there since 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock. And it was 3 o'clock. I didn't want him in there past 3 o'clock. But like, girl, they close at 6 o'clock. He's fine.
No, but I get it. It's hard. It's hard being away from your kid like that. But I think, being a mom, but also, and this is something that I emphasize now with my student athletes, is like, I was always anchored in, like, I'm more than this. Like, and again, I might not have been clear on where this was going to go because I thought I was going to be a chiropractor, but now here I am a counselor. Right. But, I always knew that there was going to be life after this. And I tell everyone, like, whether it's high school, college, or you're lucky enough to go on to be pro, the end is going to come.
So you have to be prepared for it.
Right.
That's not to say that it's going to be easy, but throughout my career, every year I would check in. What is my why? Why am I doing this? And it's the same thing now. Why? Like, what is my purpose? What am I, wanting to leave as a legacy for my son, for myself? So I was clear on that. Yeah. Even in the murkiness of it, I was like, yeah, it's time to hang these up.
Yeah, definitely. When I think about legacy, I think about the Natasha Hastings Foundation that you started. What was your mission when you started that? What did you want to gain from that foundation? So
again, planting the seeds for where I am now, literally thinking about what I was, who I was, and what I needed, and how I can pay that forward. Again, you think we're superheroes. You think we can take everything. I struggled with body image. I struggled with negative self-talk. And I didn't learn that those were things that I was struggling with, whether it be for lack of language, lack of education, whatever, till I was in my 20s. So I was like, if I can catch these girls when they're in their preteens or teens, like that's
when the things start to start. Yeah.
And so it's literally, and I think about now as a counselor, like, what did I need then that, I didn't have? How can I pay that forward? And so it was the same thing when it came to starting the foundation.
What sort of initiatives has the foundation been a part of? Like, have you done like clinics or what sort of things have you done?
So we've done clinics, we've done workshops, confidence building type workshops. We've partnered with other organizations. For some time now, we took a break while I was doing my master's because mom training, school, like
no kidding. Yeah.
And so, but we will get back into doing the clinics. And again, it's so evident in like, I don't want to be a coach, but I'll do it. What means more to me is the actual like self-empowerment piece. So the workshops are more my baby than the clinics.
Being able to be with people one-on-one, kind of have them in that space where they feel comfortable opening up and being vulnerable with you. Yeah, definitely makes more of an impact than group activities do. So again, it just leads back to you being in the perfect position that you are in now at South Carolina to work with these people face to face and in a comfortable space where they feel open to talking to you, and to where you guys can build a relationship and you can see their growth progress, because that's really all you wanted when you were in school too. Yeah. So being able to pay that forward is pretty awesome.
Yep. Yeah. Exactly.
So before we wrap up, I want to do our final segment that is brought to you by Firehouse Subs. Thank you, Firehouse Subs. So what is the best piece of advice you have ever received, or what is some advice you would like to share?
The best advice I received was actually from Michael Johnson, where he told me that every moment is an opportunity. And by that, he meant like you could have a workout that you're thinking it's just a workout. And as mundane as the moment is, it could be a breakthrough moment for you. Same thing, like you go to a track meet and they have their favorites, but it could be your day. Every moment is a moment of opportunity, and you have to be ready to seize that moment.
Absolutely. I love that. That's very good and applicable to everyone through every walk of life. The second question is, and this is difficult for you because you found your path, you know what you're doing, but if you weren't doing what you're currently doing, what would it be?
Yeah,
it's hard.
That is difficult. I have this weird thing to say, something in music. I don't know. I love music. Yeah.
That's good. That's a good answer.
And maybe something in media too, probably. Yeah, just which music could be considered media. So yeah.
Yeah, I saw some interviews where you were a August Alsina fan.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I could see that. And I mean, it definitely is a pretty easy transition for athletes to go into like the realm of media, because we're already pretty media trained,
right? Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I have a final question for you, is what's next? What are some goals you have for your future in your space?
I'm trying to grow my private practice. I'm spreading my wings, if you will. Like my gems are for my babies at USC, but I'm also spreading my wings to the rest of, I want to touch all athletes and as many athletes as possible for them to know, again, that they're more than an athlete. They're more than their sport. Personally, I'm also looking forward to growing my family. Speaking of being more than an athlete, I really love being a mom, and I would love to have more children and grow my family. So yeah, hopefully in a few years you're seeing more littles running around me.
I hope so.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, Natasha, I really, really appreciate having you on today. It was really nice to talk with you and hear your story.
This was such an honor. I'm so glad that you invited me to do this. Thank you.
The honor is mine. Thank you very much. And I hope you have a great rest of your day.
You too.